Well, shit. How about that? To start take five with, well, shit.
I was going to start with, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, and a reminder, Dave Grosby is half Canadian. He can't outrun his past, and who knows whose side he was on in that series.
Newfoundlander, man. We don't rule for those mainlanders, but
that's right.
For crying out loud, what a way for it to end.
Yeah, it's funny. Some of the takes today were comparing it to the Seahawks getting to the one in their second Super Bowl, and it's however you want to put it. It's brutally disappointing. It's part of why winning it is so great, is because if you go through this, and God knows Mariner fans have gone through it enough, there's no good way to end the season except getting the shiny trophy.
Right. And in baseball, I mean, there's always so many decisions that you can point to if you want to make whatever point you want to make about the game. And that's happening, I think, a lot. And I think a lot of it's look, I just don't think a lot of it's fair, but it never is, because you're looking for reasons, and it's an imperfect situation here. You've got, I don't know, how many decisions do you think a manager can make over the course of a game, that especially in the playoffs when you're managing a lot more aggressively? I mean, there's got to be 20 or 30 of them probably when you get down to the end, and a couple of them really stand out that work if you were right and your pitcher gets the guy out. If he doesn't get the guy out, it doesn't work. If a guy strikes out, you have him lined up the pinch hit because you set things up that way. It's it's your fault for some reason. I mean, look, I think I understand what the main line seems to be about Anthony Munoz. Why wouldn't you have him in to pitch to George Springer in the seventh inning, which is a take you can have. There are many takes you can have on the opposite side of that as well. So I'm not sitting here, Gas, thinking that Dan Wilson blew the shot at the World Series. I don't think the Mariners get here without his hand guiding them throughout the year. And I'm not talking about the game day decisions. I'm talking about the mood that he set for the team, the fact that he put them in a position to be successful all year, and all the guys kind of agree with that. So, look, if you want to argue the Bizarro point, go ahead. I mean, he was 5-0 this year. Didn't blow a single situation like this year. He had gotten Springer out the last time he faced him. This is a job he had done for him all year long. Munoz had never pitched 2 innings in a game, I don't think, in the regular season. Nonetheless, 3. You're going to put him in there for potentially 3 right there. The leadoff walk. Remember Ken Levine's rule? When he was Mariner broadcasting those years, the leadoff walk always comes around to score unless it doesn't. Well, I mean, it's just, you put yourself in a bad situation there. So then there are just many ways you can stack up decisions in this particular circumstance. And I understand people's frustration for it. And look, it's not really, there's no facts, Gas. I mean, you can't say for a fact that Munoz would have done better. In fact, he didn't do well when he came in 2 innings. So it's maddening because it's frustrating because you want someone to blame.
Right.
You want it to be someone's fault, damn it.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. And as always, and you and I have always talked about, second guessing a manager for pitching decisions is assuming your way was going to be perfect, which you just alluded to. Maybe Munoz comes in and gets. Certainly, I can understand the argument. I can see people saying Munoz should have been in there. I get that. But you brought up the point. Bizarro had gotten the job done every single time. He hadn't had one screw up until last night. So you don't know what's going to happen. I get frustrated with the criticisms of any coach that never start with the fact that, the reason the Mariners lost this series primarily is because Toronto's really good and they played well. They played better than the Mariners. The top half of their order was better. The bottom half of their order was way better. Their pitching was better. You could say their managing was better. Sure, I'm not going to excuse Dan from any criticism at all. But that's the reason. It doesn't have, you can't look at one play or anything. And then you also can thank our good friends, the Detroit Tigers, for extending the M's so much in that first series that their pitching was kind of a shambles at the start. Take out Wu for most of this. He just wasn't going to be able to be what they thought he could be. I think it's remarkable they got to the point they got to. And certainly I'll entertain the argument, but yet you never know what would have happened.
Well, and Gas, this is, you're talking about your opening line there about, all the things that could have happened, in the game. Remember, this is not a series you lost 4-0. You
Right,
lost by
right.
4-3 in the eighth inning. I mean, you were right there. You had the game, and that's what makes it frustrating because you couldn't close the deal. But it was the pitchers and the guys will be the first to tell you it's the players who make those things happen or don't make those things happen. Munoz was very specific in his talk afterwards that Bizarro was the right move. No one had any question about him being the right move there. He didn't think it was a mistake not to put him in. I thought Cal Raleigh, on the other hand, was absolutely right in what he said, that it's frustrating. We
Yeah.
expected to get to the World Series. We're not happy. We're not satisfied. That's a perfect thing to say for him. I don't mind that Wilson sticks. Wilson is he's still a ball player, and ball players stick to their guns. They don't
Right.
speak in our terms. They speak in their terms. He's going to question anyone who's going to question him as a manager who's sitting there with a microphone who never played the game. So, I appreciate the frustration everyone has because it feels like it should be able to be blamed on someone. I think the Mariners played over their head, like you said. I think that 15-inning game completely underrated in a factor because you didn't have Lou at the same time. He wasn't there for the first part of it. So,
Right.
what would that series been like if he had been there pitching and starting, and if he had started 2 games in this series? So many other things could have happened that could have gotten it done for him, but didn't. And it's 49 years of frustration. But this year I feel a little bit. It'll take some time for people, but I think I feel a little bit different about this year than other frustrations the Mariners have had in the past. Gas. I think that they really did all they could do this year. They went as far as they could go this year. The World Series should have been there, but it wasn't. And they did lose to a better team, not a worse team. So I'm not going to point the finger of blame at anyone. I thought the front office did their job. Wilson did their job getting them there, and they just at the end of the day we're this close. We're this
Yeah.
close.
And think about it. And again, who do in our wild blame somebody culture, who do you blame for them blowing a 2-0 lead? You won the first 2 games and you came home, you had 3 at home. That falls on the team in my mind. And again, a certain percentage of that goes to Wilson, but the players too. You've got to, you had them down. You've got to take care of it. To your point, you made this on social media a couple of times. If this had been pick 2 teams, the Angels versus the Royals, all we'd be talking about today is, God, that was a great series. You
Right.
never knew what was going to happen. And
Right.
it's hard when it's you and you lose it. You can't just step back and go, well, they lost. But boy, it was a great
It was.
series. And with some of the, with getting extended by Detroit, with their best pitcher being not available as much as you would have liked, with the bottom half of their order disappearing, they get to within a run of the World Series. I want to follow up on something you just said, because I had a note in here to ask you, and I think I know where you're going to go based on your comment. Okay, it's over. Now you start looking to next year. Is your Mariner glass half full or half empty?
Oh, for God's sakes, it's 3/4 full.
Yeah, I think
I
so
think they're
too.
I think they're in terrific shape going into next year. I think unfortunately Josh Naylor has priced himself in a new range now, man. He has become a deluxe item as opposed to just a nice pickup, and he was terrific. I mean, he was flat out fantastic. He's got baseball savvy that showed up on the field. I mean, in ways that were far more than just what he did at the plate. He's going to cost you a lot, and I think you ought to pay it, but I mean, if I'm a smart GM, Gas, I see this guy is a winner. He's a piece of a team. He's an important piece of a team that will be successful. We're gonna pay him. If I'm one of the big money teams, this is the guy I want. This is the guy I feel like I can win with. So I mean,
yeah. I
besides
agree.
that,
It's another thing to keep in mind. Toronto had $100 million extra in payroll, so the Mariners, there's plenty of room to keep stepping up. And this is not about small market owners who can't afford it. Their owners can afford it. They've got to want to afford it, and that's right where you start. I love Naylor. He's like watching a semi-truck play first base. There is nothing about him that's graceful, except he's an incredible athlete for his size, and he just gets things done. I don't see, unless he's like, I don't want to stay here. There are people that come up here, and regardless
Sure.
of what all he said, everything, say, I want to go somewhere else. But boy, if he's got any window at all open, I'd take care of it right away and say, you are a key to what we're trying to get done up here.
yeah, about $100 million over 4 years. What do you say?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
He'd be great to have, and you know, the pitching staff should be better. I mean, there's no reason why they wouldn't be. You've got some depth on the team. You really look. We said this too. I think when the trade deadline came, the Mariners went and did what they had to do as a front office, and they got two pieces. And you know, Suarez may not have had the numbers that he had before he got here, but don't tell me he wasn't a big factor on that team and that dugout. You know,
Right.
during the tough times that they had to overcome stuff to get here, plus the big hit that he had. Naylor obviously was a huge player, a huge addition for them. So I mean, they did their job. You know, I love the fact, and you know, you and me have talked about this for a while, and I've always felt the same way. They didn't trade any of their young pitching,
Right.
and you know, it almost got them there this year. You can be frustrated about last year and the year before, when maybe they were a little healthier and they could have gone a little bit further if they had the hitting then. But you know, I feel much better about this season than I do about any other losing season that they've had. And you know, part of that is not being as emotionally involved in it and be able to look at it, like you said, Gas. At this great series with Toronto, you got this close to it. You're not washed up. I mean, not looking at a team that's you know, with a lot of players over the hill. You've got
Right.
Julio's just getting started. I
Right.
mean, he was just
Right.
getting started. And the thing is, Cal Raleigh not gonna hit 65 home runs next year.
Right.
I mean, there's certain things that you didn't take advantage of this year that you can't count on next year. But you know, you can certainly count on him for his leadership, and he's going to be a big time player. He's not going to be a bad player. He's not going to go all of a sudden out of it. So you got two great leaders. You got a young backbone to your pitching staff. You got a packed farm system. You got a front office that is doing what it takes. I mean, I think the future for the Mariners is very rosy right now.
And you've become, thanks to this season, an attractive place for a free agent to look at.
Right.
And you don't have a long laundry list. I think what the M's need, in my opinion, I don't know what order I'd put this in. You need another strong hitter. They've got to get a lineup that doesn't have as many holes in it. So whether it's a DH, a right fielder with more power, I think they're going to go with Williamson at third. I think they'll probably let Suarez go. But
Yeah.
whatever you do there, but you need another. You need to add. No matter what you do, you've got to add somebody to this list. I think you need to add a pitcher, whether it's a starter or a reliever. I mean, it's hard to imagine that you'd have to say their pitching staff was thin by the end of the year, but it was. And
Yeah.
you got to address that Castillo's at a certain point where he's not going to be what he was. So you've got to add that. I think you need a backup catcher. I think
Yes.
not only is Raleigh not going to hit 65 home runs, he can't play as much as he did this year. They have got to find a
No.
way to get him off his feet a little bit more for the
Definitely.
long-term health of the franchise. So, but those things, again, that isn't like you said, it's not like, well, you gotta go replace 8 or 9 guys. That's like 3 or
No.
4 things that I think if they do, they can hit the ground right where they left off this year and keep rolling. The funny thing is DePoto's 54% comment would be much more apropos today than it was 4 years ago. You can start looking and going, look, man, this is how you get to a World Series is you're good every year. And
You're not on the
now
door all the time, right?
I think
You know,
they're set to be. I'm with you. Glass way over 3/4 full, but they've got you got to keep doing stuff. You can't just sit back and go, okay, we're going to run it back with the same crew. You're going to have to make some changes and address the weaknesses. They've got to organizationally, they've got to look at what happened hitting wise, because all year they seem to be such a good team at using the whole field and taking advantage of things and hitting lots of doubles. And then all of a sudden they get into the playoffs and it became 3 true outcomes again. They started looking like they did a couple of years ago where everything was swinging for the fences. So they got to figure out how that happened and how they prevent it from happening in the future, because it was frustrating to watch the bottom part of their lineup just completely disappear in the postseason.
well, noted baseball expert Bonnie Grosby, who does not watch much baseball but watched a lot of the postseason baseball with me and the Mariners, pointed out something that is along the lines of what you said: is they need someone who can hit, not home runs, just hit. And she's
Right.
right. I mean, she's right.
Yeah.
They need the bat that I think they need the most is the bat that gets on base. You know,
Yeah.
they need someone who hits, that they're not always going for the home run. And, you know, Naylor was that kind of a player, I think, came here as that kind of player and added some things to it. And being able to steal bases was a great thing about him. But, get someone who gets on base, because you need more ducks on the pond, let's say, in the
Yeah.
course of a game than being just a home run, the 3 true outcomes team, which wasn't a terrible thing for them. They weren't awful that way, but they're much more beatable that way.
You think of Ernie Clement, who, God, was he a pain in the rear in this series, and
Yeah.
Addison Barger and Andres Jimenez and Kilner Falafa, Kiner Falafa. That this is what they needed is just some guys out of the bottom, like Bonnie said, just some guys to hit. And again, that's stuff I think you can address. How about we address George Springer? And look, this is probably not going to be a popular take, but maybe we stop
We
booing
had the
this
same
guy.
take. Yeah.
I understand why everybody's still pissed at him, and now you're probably even more pissed because of what he did. But it's something. Let's back off, man, and just hope he stops taking it out on us and making it personal. Because and I
Well,
thought, look, the thing about people booing him when he got hit in the knee, there was plenty of that going on. Don't this idea that was all Toronto fans. I was at the game. I had a lot of
right.
people around me that I was just looking at like, I cannot believe you're doing this. I don't know if it was the majority, but even on social media, you see a lot of people defending that behavior. What are we becoming if you're going to boo a guy who got hurt, who took a 100-mile-an-hour heater off his kneecap? You're going to boo him because you think he once cheated, or maybe he did once cheat.
Yeah.
You never do
One that was
that.
not the finest hour, definitely not. And
It just
I mean,
wasn't.
he is a great player. I mean, he's just a great player. It's too bad from the Mariners' standpoint, but I think about him, Gas. You talk about getting hit in the leg. What happened to him every other plate appearance that he made since that point? Because I was watching this fairly closely.
Yeah.
Every single pitcher that he faced from the Mariners, every single at bat he had until that last at bat, which I think it happened. I think it was everyone but that one. They threw a pitch inside.
Yeah.
Backed him up, upstairs sometimes, but they definitely threw it inside, backed him off the plate every single at bat he had. So I'm not saying that fired him up anymore because he's a great player anyway, but it certainly kept him focused and in there. And look, you're talking about a guy who not a guy who had never done it before, but a guy who has done it at the highest level a lot.
Yeah.
And it was just I don't know how much better Munoz had the advantage of not having faced Springer this year. Maybe that helps him. Maybe it faces Springer. I don't know, but we were texting last night, and I said, look, he was going to do damage in that at bat, no matter who he was facing.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, you just never know. I was so impressed with him in Game 6 when he kept falling to his knee because he's clearly didn't have a lot of strength in that leg, and I'm like, that's got to hurt like hell after getting hit by a fastball. It's got to keep his whole body weight landing on that knee. Look, what happened in Houston happened, and it's a shitty thing,
Yeah.
and baseball should have dealt with it even harsher than they did, and I don't blame people for being mad, but that doesn't take away what he did in this series, and he was remarkable. Just a giant.
He's a great player, and he was great in this series. The other real frustrating thing about this too is people aren't. I'm sure they're keeping it in mind, but the game wasn't over when Springer hit that home run.
Right.
And the most frustrating thing about it at the end was Julio's at bat. And look, he had a up and down series, mainly up. He is everything that he is. They thought he was going to be and more at this point. But I think one of the guys in the paper made the point that he struck out on a pitch sequence that none of them were strikes.
Yeah, right.
None of them were strikes.
Right.
He got it to 3-2, but none of them were strikes. And left Raleigh, with sitting there waiting for the chance to have the at bat. He had already been a hero time and time again. And that's something that I thought was stamped in this series in particular. Is Cal Raleigh is completely a big time elite top of the food chain player. Was a stud in this competition. In this series he was tremendous. And I just. To have that kind of pillar to build on with Julio, I mean, I don't know how you couldn't be optimistic about what the Mariners' future looks like with those two guys kind of anchoring things. Both young, both with a lot of career in front of them, both signed for a long period of time.
Yeah, and Julio's at bat. Hopefully he'll learn from it. He's a guy who's going to swing at pitches like that his whole career. Julio's discipline's never good. Maybe he'll get better, but
he's getting better at it.
He's really good, and I mean, you take some of the youthful stuff with that. I think back to kind of the point I made earlier, which is, I'm not sure why they fell in love with Leo Rivas so much. He played okay against Detroit, but man, they stuck with him a lot against Toronto. When your last at bats start with him and Canzone, and you're going to have 2 outs by the time Julio gets up. And again, that they've got to address that. They've got to figure out a way to get a little more pop and strength down at the bottom of that line.
Well, it's just getting some veterans too. That's not big contracts. It's just getting some guys who can be a little more of a threat.
Well, and one of the things about this year, and I loved it all summer, and I understand why they went away from it a little bit as the summer faded to fall. But again, Ben Williamson and Cole Young, they played a lot this year at third and second. Whether they're ultimately the answers, we'll see. But, you'll go into next year, that's probably who you're going to bring in. I don't know what they do with Polanco, but, again, you need guys, and guys like that. I wish they had gotten Williamson some at-bats. I don't think it's going to wreck his career or anything.
No.
But if I'd been the Mariners as an organization, I would have said, we have got to find a couple of places to get him in the games in the postseason. And he wasn't on the roster against Toronto, so you couldn't do it there, but he was against Detroit. I would have made that a priority had I been the M's, but their priority was trying to win, and it's sometimes you can't do everything.
Oh, so close.
Yeah,
Oh, so
absolutely. Close. One of we probably ought to we got a couple other things here, but how about Ohtani? Is the only thing I can think of that compares to Ohtani's performance is Secretariat at the Belmont. I mean, in my lifetime, in terms of just a performance, you're like, I can't describe what I just saw.
It's not fair. I mean, it's not fair. I mean, you're playing against a guy who doesn't look like he should be playing. I mean, he's. That performance, you're right, Secretariat's the only thing that comes even close to it. But it's 3 home runs, striking out 10 guys. I mean, it's an unfair advantage they have. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what to say. I think it's the greatest individual game. I think everyone said this. The greatest individual game that any player's ever had in baseball. I'd go so far to say in football. I was talking with our old friend Hugh Millen yesterday, as a matter of fact. And I likened it to Tom Brady playing quarterback, and being the best quarterback in the league, and then being the best middle linebacker in the league, leading the league in sacks and interceptions.
Right.
Because, Ohtani stole 59 bases last year. Yeah. I mean, he can do it all. So, I mean, I'm not going to be burdened by watching much of the World Series this year, but it was amazing. It was absolutely an amazing achievement by him.
I saw somewhere, I think it was Rick Wise, way back in the day, who started a game as a pitcher, struck out 8 and hit 2 home runs.
Had no hitter.
And that's the only, comparison. And nobody's saying, Wise and Ohtani are on the same level, but that in hundreds of years of baseball, that's the only one that jumps out that you could even say compares to it, and it really doesn't. It kind of does, but it doesn't at all when you add in the stage that Ohtani was on. I think the Blue Jays are a little better equipped than the Mariners would have been, but I think either of these teams is going to get steamrolled. The Dodgers the Dodgers are going old school. They actually have pitchers that go to the 7th and 8th inning. And that's another thing the Mariners organizationally, I'd like to see them look at building some of these young arms to where they can go deeper in games. I'm kind of tired of a 5-inning game being considered a great start. It's not. Right. Not in the postseason, man, when everything's at a premium. You need to get more out of your starting pitchers. Yeah,
I think the Dodgers are going to coast. And the thing about Ohtani, too, and just in fairness to him, is remember before this game, he was 1 for 18. Yeah. So, I mean, actually, he was struggling a little bit, but then he reminds you who he is, which is the greatest player that's ever played the game, and it's not even close.
Yeah, when he does everything he does. I don't know if you flipped over to the Monday night game last night. Normally there's an energy that comes off a Seahawks game, even on TV. There was none like that. It had to be the weirdest game ever. I applaud the Hawks for getting a win because the crowd just wasn't. I mean, they were into it a little.
Into it at first, yeah.
Come on, everybody's following the M's, and the M's lose, and you're down, and there wasn't a lot of buzz in the stadium. The defense was terrific, and they get a win on a night where they're the first teams were 0-31 when they'd had, what were the 3 things?
12 penalties,
less than 25%, conversions.
Yeah, I mean, you know who it is, Gas? You know who it is? It's the sort of stat that the Legion of Boom had. Right. When you see that they commit the most penalties, and yet they give up the fewest yards. I really am excited about this team, and in particular in this game, too. You saw Darnold I'm convinced. I was a skeptic when the year started. I'm not anymore. I mean, he is a guy they got at the right time. He's a guy who fits perfectly with what they're doing and looks very, very good to me. I don't know how they got Leonard Williams. I don't know how the Giants could have possibly traded that guy away. Yeah. But him with Brian Russell, the kid they got from Texas, gives them a completely, they annihilate teams in the middle. They just have the best defensive line, with Lawrence there as well, that I've seen in a long time. The defense, the way they wanted it to be, is what McDonald had in Baltimore. Is what they wanted to get from him. They've got that defense. I think they got it right now. Great defense like that, Gas, allows you to make all kinds of mistakes if you want an offense. Allows you to, have the penalties, not that you want them, or allows you to deal with the turnover differential, not that you want that either. Remember, this is without their Pro Bowl cornerback.
Right.
So, they're not 100% healthy there, but I think that they really, really stepped up. And, it's interesting looking at the NFL right now because, we kind of thought at the start of the year the NFC West would be tough. I think the NFC West looks more than tough. I mean, the Rams were just annihilated Jacksonville on a day that they got the London a day before that, and just dispatched them with alacrity.
Yeah.
All three teams are 5-2. The Niners are playing without their best players as well, and the Seahawks look like a 10 or 11 win team. So I think the NFC West is really looking good. But I was very impressed by the Seahawks last night, Gas. Very impressed.
I want to see them. They talked about having a commitment to the run this year, and it hasn't shown up as much yet. Like really last night, it was glaring because they couldn't finish the game off. I mean, those kind of games where a good running team gets the ball with 6 minutes to go, up by 2 touchdowns, and just reels off 3 or 4 first downs. They couldn't do it. So that's an and they got a bye week. It's funny, isn't it? Because we're getting to the end of October and a bye week, and you're thinking, all right, second half of the season. They're not even halfway through the season yet. It's such a long, that 17th game means something. But yeah, it's obviously the really good teams can find a way to win on nights when maybe they didn't have all their stuff going, but their defense was going. And especially in that fourth quarter where they were so tough. How many goal line plays did the Texans run before they finally got in? Because it was 2 different times they got down. They stopped them once, and the second time they had to run 3 or 4 plays till they got in. So, good job by the defense, and lot of wood to chop in the second half of the season. I think what the West is, it's definitely even, and it may be really good too, but it's a very even division. It feels like it's going to be fun to watch some of these games in the second half of the season when teams are playing each other.
Yeah, and my apology to the Lions, who really have straightened themselves out, look very good right now too. I mean, they're still elite, and Philadelphia is still showing signs that they're elite, and that they can be a factor in this like they were last year, winning the whole thing. But I do think the NFC West looks really, really strong, and I think the Seahawks have been at a very impressive. It's not even first half, like you said; it's 7 games out of 17 to play, but a very, very good start. We'll call it that to this year, I think, and it's going to be fun to watch because I think this town has always loved defense more than anything. Gas. We know that when we got here was when the Huskies had Steve Entman and that defense led them. And, I think we just feel more comfortable with it in Seattle. And we've got a kind of a defense right now with the Seahawks. I think you really got an outstanding defense with them. And it was fun to watch, and it's going to be fun to watch the rest of the way.
All right, would you like to end the day with, and there's nothing stupider, Groz, than a stupid Canadian criminal. And I'm taking a cheap shot today, Canada. Duck, because here it comes. We're going to Ottawa, Groz, where a Royal Canadian Mint worker was convicted of theft and money laundering Wednesday after a judge ruled he smuggled $162,000 in gold nuggets, likely in his rectum.
What?
Well, that's where the money laundering comes in, I think. Authorities called the heist an inside job. Those Canadians in their little subtle shop.
Pretty funny.
Leston Lawrence, they allege, snuck 22 gold discs, which are nicknamed pucks because it's Canada, so you have to nickname it a puck.
This is just getting better and better.
They say he used a body cavity. The only one they could figure is, the cavity he used to smuggle stuff, because he had to get through metal detectors in what they call a fortress-like building. It's a Canadian Mint. They're going to
right.
They searched his locker and found Vaseline and latex gloves, which was something that was held against him.
Very damning.
And the pucks they seized from a safety deposit box matched the kind that he was making in the refinery. He was accompanied by a young woman when he went to court, and he sat stoically in the back row of courtroom 13, where the case was presided over by Judge Peter Duty.
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
You can't make this stuff up.
Judge Duty noted there was only one video camera in the whole place. He decried how horrible the security was. Says, you guys got to get better security system. One of Lawrence's jobs was to melt raw batches of gold and operate a chlorination process, and then he would turn them into these pucks. The cylindrical pucks are about the diameter of a golf ball, and they have, according to somebody, a nubbly top. And that's where I would have had to say, well, hang on, really, what am I doing here? I've got to do that, and it's got a nub. I don't even know what a nubbly top is. But
Jesus. No one told me about the novels.
Nubbly. There's your Canadian criminals for you, Groz.
Go Dodgers.
Go Dodgers.